My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the quietest mistakes we make is announcing our happiness to everyone. We speak too freely about what brings us joy, what we are building, and what Allah has blessed us with, forgetting that not every heart listening to us carries good intentions. Some people celebrate you, but others compare, envy, or silently wish for your happiness to fade. Islam teaches us wisdom, not secrecy out of fear, but privacy out of protection. Your joy is fragile, your peace is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to what Allah is nurturing inside your life. The Prophet ﷺ advised us to seek help in silence for our needs, because not every eye that sees you smiles for you. So learn when to speak and when to remain quiet. Guard what makes you happy, because when you protect your joy from unnecessary noise, Allah protects it from unnecessary harm. Happiness grows best in privacy. Happiness is one of the most delicate blessings Allah places in a person's life. It is not loud, it is not demanding, and it does not need an audience to exist. Yet many people unknowingly weaken their happiness by exposing it too early or too widely. Islam teaches us that some blessings grow quietly, just like seeds beneath the soil. If a seed is constantly dug up to be shown, it never has time to take root. In the same way, happiness flourishes when it is protected from unnecessary attention. When you enjoy what Allah has given you privately, your heart remains calm and your gratitude remains sincere. Privacy shields joy from comparison, from envy, and from the pressure of people's opinions. Allah does not require you to display your blessings for them to be valid. He only asks that you recognize them and thank Him. When happiness is lived quietly, it becomes stable. It is no longer fragile or dependent on reactions. It becomes a peaceful companion rather than a performance for others. Many people believe sharing happiness increases it, but often it exposes it to harm. Not every person who hears about your joy carries purity in their heart. Some listen with comparison, others with jealousy, and others with silent negativity they may not even recognize within themselves. Islam teaches wisdom in speech because words travel further than intentions. When you speak openly about your happiness, you give others access to something Allah entrusted to you. Privacy limits that access. It allows happiness to develop without interference. A quiet joy is easier to maintain than a public one. It does not rise and fall based on praise or criticism. It remains steady, grounded in gratitude rather than validation. This steadiness is a gift from Allah to those who understand when to speak and when to remain silent. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that seeking help for our needs should often be done quietly, because not every observer wishes well. This wisdom applies equally to happiness. When you protect your joy, you are not hiding out of fear, you are guarding out of wisdom. Allah loves moderation, and moderation includes privacy. Happiness shared selectively remains pure. Happiness exposed carelessly becomes diluted. When you learn to keep certain blessings between you and Allah, your connection with Him deepens. Gratitude becomes more sincere because it is not mixed with the desire for recognition. This sincerity strengthens faith and allows happiness to settle deeply within the heart. Privacy also prevents unnecessary pressure. When happiness is announced publicly, people begin to watch, comment, and expect it to remain perfect. This expectation creates stress. The believer feels forced to maintain an image rather than simply live. Islam does not ask believers to perform joy. It asks them to live with contentment. Contentment thrives in privacy. It allows space for ups and downs without explanation. Life becomes more natural, more balanced, and more peaceful. A private happiness can grow through difficulties without being questioned or judged. This protection preserves emotional and spiritual health. When happiness is kept quiet, gratitude grows louder in the heart. The believer begins to notice Allah's mercy in small moments rather than grand announcements. A peaceful morning, a calm heart, a quiet dua, answered these moments become treasures. Privacy sharpens awareness. It teaches the believer to recognize blessings without needing acknowledgement. This awareness transforms happiness from excitement into tranquility. Tranquility is a higher form of joy. It does not fade quickly. It stays with the believer through hardship and ease alike. Privacy also teaches humility. When joy is not constantly shared, pride has no place to grow. The heart remains grounded. Islam values humility because it keeps the believer close to Allah. A humble heart enjoys blessings without feeling superior. It understands that happiness is a test, just like hardship. Protecting happiness privately allows the believer to pass that test with grace. They enjoy without arrogance and thank Allah without showing off. This balance invites barakah into the blessing. Many relationships suffer when happiness is overshared. People may feel excluded, compared, or diminished. Islam values harmony and privacy helps preserve it. When you live your joy quietly, you avoid unnecessary tension. Your happiness remains yours, not a source of discomfort for others. This sensitivity reflects good character. Allah loves those who are mindful of how their actions affect hearts. Protecting happiness in privacy is an act of kindness toward others as well. A private happiness also strengthens reliance on Allah. When joy is not dependent on people's reactions, the believer turns naturally toward Allah for contentment. This reliance deepens faith. The heart learns that Allah alone is the source of peace. People may come and go, but Allah remains. Happiness rooted in Him does not shake easily. Privacy allows this root to grow strong and deep. As time passes, the believer notices that their quiet joy lasts longer. It is not consumed by comparison or weakened by external noise. It matures. It becomes part of who they are rather than something they display. This maturity brings confidence without arrogance and peace without isolation. It is a sign of spiritual growth. In the end, happiness grows best in privacy because privacy protects sincerity, gratitude, and peace. When you guard what Allah has given you, He guards it for you. A joy shared selectively remains strong. A joy lived quietly becomes lasting. And a happiness protected for the sake of Allah is one that carries barakah far beyond what the eye can see. Not every smile is sincere. Not every smile you see carries goodwill, and not every kind word comes from a sincere heart. Islam teaches us to think well of others, but it also teaches us wisdom. A believer is not naive. While we are encouraged to have husn al-dan, good opinion, we are also reminded to be cautious with our blessings. Some people smile while comparing, some smile while envying, and others smile while silently wishing what you have would disappear. This is not paranoia, it is reality. Allah created hearts differently, and not every heart responds to your happiness with purity. Recognizing this truth does not make you bitter, it makes you balanced. When you understand that not every smile is sincere, you learn to protect what Allah has given you without suspicion or arrogance. You simply become selective. You choose wisdom over exposure and peace over unnecessary explanation. This awareness protects your heart from disappointment and your joy from harm. The Quran reminds us that envy is real and its effects can be damaging when blessings are exposed carelessly. A smiling face may hide a heart that struggles with comparison or dissatisfaction. Islam does not teach us to accuse others, but it teaches us to guard ourselves. When you openly share what makes you happy, you expose your joy to eyes and hearts that may not be ready to celebrate with you. Privacy is not distrust, it is protection. The believer learns that some blessings thrive only when kept between themselves and Allah. By limiting access to your happiness, you limit unnecessary interference. This is not fear, it is maturity rooted in faith. Many believers are hurt not by enemies, but by those they assumed were sincere. This pain often comes from oversharing with people who smiled politely but did not carry goodwill. Islam encourages us to build relationships, but it does not demand emotional exposure to everyone. Wisdom lies in discernment. Not every person needs to know your plans, your progress, or your peace. When you understand that smiles can be deceiving, you become careful without becoming cold. Your heart stays open, but your inner world remains protected. The Prophet ﷺ taught us to be alert without being hostile. He interacted with people kindly, yet he trusted Allah while remaining wise in disclosure. He understood that some hearts are tested by the success of others. This prophetic approach teaches us to maintain good character while guarding blessings. When you speak less about what makes you happy, you reduce the risk of envy affecting your life. This silence does not diminish joy, it preserves it. Your happiness becomes calmer, steadier, and more resilient. Not every smile celebrates your growth. Some smile while hoping you fail. This truth may feel uncomfortable, but ignoring it causes greater harm. Islam prepares the believer for reality without stripping them of mercy. You can be kind and cautious at the same time. This balance keeps relationships respectful and hearts safe. When you choose privacy, you are not accusing others, you are honoring Allah's guidance. You trust Him to protect you while you take the means He allowed. Oversharing invites opinions that were never requested. Smiles often come with advice, comparison, or subtle discouragement. This noise can weaken motivation and disturb peace. By keeping happiness private, you protect it from being diluted by others' emotions. Your joy remains yours, untouched by external reactions. This preservation is a form of gratitude. Allah appreciates when His gifts are valued carefully. Some smiles are sincere, and Islam encourages us to cherish those relationships. But sincerity reveals itself over time, not in a single expression. The believer observes patterns rather than reacting to appearances. This patience allows trust to grow naturally. When happiness is shared slowly, it remains safe. When shared too quickly, it becomes vulnerable. Wisdom teaches timing, and timing protects joy. Not every smile deserves access to your inner world. Islam values inner peace more than outward display. When you stop measuring sincerity by expressions and start measuring it by consistency, your heart becomes wiser. This wisdom prevents heartbreak and preserves faith. You remain loving without being exposed. When you guard your joy, Allah guards it for you. This protection often comes quietly. Problems are avoided, tension disappears, peace settles. You may never see what Allah saved you from, but you will feel its effect. That feeling is serenity. In the end, understanding that not every smile is sincere teaches the believer balance. You remain kind, hopeful, and trusting of Allah while being careful with what you reveal. This balance protects happiness, preserves dignity, and keeps the heart close to Allah. Oversharing weakens blessings. Oversharing is one of the quiet ways people unknowingly place strain on the blessings Allah gives them. A blessing is delicate, especially in its early stages, and when it is exposed to too many eyes and opinions, its strength can weaken. Islam teaches us that blessings thrive in gratitude, not in display. When you share too much, you invite comparison, advice, envy, and expectations that were never meant to be part of your journey. This noise disturbs the peace Allah intended to accompany the blessing. Oversharing does not always come from pride. Sometimes it comes from excitement or the desire to feel understood. But wisdom teaches restraint. Allah never asked us to announce every gift He gives. He asked us to protect them through humility and shukr. When blessings are kept close to the heart and shared selectively, they remain lighter, calmer, and more enduring. Many believers lose barakah not because Allah removes it, but because they expose it carelessly. When something good enters your life, it needs time to settle. Oversharing rushes that process. People's reactions, even well-intended ones, can plant doubt or pressure in the heart. Questions arise, comparisons begin, fear of losing the blessing grows. Islam protects the believer from this cycle by teaching moderation in speech. The Prophet ﷺ advised discretion because not every listener wishes well. This advice was not meant to isolate believers, but to safeguard what Allah nurtures. When you limit access to your blessings, you limit unnecessary disturbance. The blessing is allowed to grow naturally, supported by gratitude rather than attention. Oversharing also shifts focus from Allah to people. Instead of thanking Allah quietly, the heart begins to seek reactions. Praise becomes tempting, approval becomes desired. This subtle shift weakens sincerity. Allah loves when blessings draw the servant closer to Him, not when they become a source of validation. When gratitude is performed privately, it remains pure. When gratitude is mixed with display, it becomes fragile. Islam teaches that hidden gratitude often carries greater reward than public celebration. This hidden gratitude strengthens the blessing from within. People often overshare seeking encouragement, but encouragement from people can be unpredictable. Some will uplift, others will discourage, and others will compare silently. The believer who overshares exposes themselves to emotional fluctuation. Their happiness begins to rise and fall based on responses. This instability weakens joy. Islam wants the believer's happiness to be anchored in Allah, not in reactions. By keeping blessings private, the heart remains steady. It enjoys what Allah gave without fear of losing it through words. Oversharing invites unnecessary advice. Even good advice can become overwhelming when it is unsolicited. Too many opinions create confusion. Confusion weakens confidence. Confidence is necessary for blessings to grow. Allah wants the believer to move forward with trust, not hesitation. Silence protects clarity. When fewer voices enter your space, Allah's guidance becomes easier to recognize. This clarity strengthens faith and preserves peace. Some blessings require protection because they are tests. Wealth, happiness, success, and peace can either elevate or distract. Oversharing often turns tests into burdens. The believer becomes more focused on maintaining an image than enjoying the blessing. Islam frees the believer from this pressure by encouraging modesty. Modesty is not hiding, it is balance. It keeps the heart focused on purpose rather than perception. Oversharing can also attract envy, even unintentionally. Envy is a real spiritual harm acknowledged in Islam. The believer does not accuse others, but they take precautions. Just as you protect your body from harm, you protect your blessings from exposure. This protection is wisdom, not fear. Allah rewards those who act with foresight. When blessings are kept private, they feel more intimate. The believer shares them with Allah through dua and shukr rather than with crowds. This intimacy deepens faith. The heart feels closer to Allah. That closeness brings contentment. Contentment strengthens blessings more than applause ever could. Over time, the believer notices that quiet blessings last longer. They mature slowly and steadily. They are not rushed, questioned, or pressured. They simply exist with peace. This longevity is barakah. Allah places barakah where humility lives. In the end, oversharing weakens blessings because it exposes them to unnecessary noise. Silence protects them. Gratitude strengthens them. And when blessings are guarded for the sake of Allah, He preserves them in ways that words never could. Your joy is not for public approval. Your joy was never meant to be placed before people for judgment or validation. Allah is the one who grants happiness, and He does not require an audience to confirm its worth. When joy becomes dependent on public approval, it loses its purity. The heart begins to ask not whether it is grateful, but whether it is admired. This shift quietly weakens contentment. Islam teaches us to seek Allah's pleasure first because people's reactions are unstable. What they celebrate today, they may criticize tomorrow. When you understand that your joy is between you and Allah, you stop chasing approval and start protecting peace. This protection allows joy to remain sincere. It is no longer shaped by opinions, but by gratitude. Allah loves hearts that rejoice quietly because their happiness is rooted in faith, not performance. Many people feel pressured to explain or display their happiness so others will accept it as legitimate. But Islam never asks you to justify joy. If Allah has placed contentment in your heart, that is enough. Seeking approval invites comparison. Comparison breeds insecurity. Insecurity weakens joy. The believer who understands this cycle steps away from it. They enjoy blessings without announcement. They smile without explanation. Their happiness becomes calmer and more stable because it no longer depends on how others respond. This stability is a form of barakah. It allows joy to last beyond moments of praise. When approval is removed from the equation, peace returns to the heart. Public approval often comes with conditions. People approve as long as your happiness aligns with their expectations. When it does not, approval disappears. Islam protects the believer from this trap by encouraging independence of heart. Your joy does not need to fit someone else's standards to be valid. Allah knows what heals you, what uplifts you, and what brings you peace. When you trust His wisdom, you stop explaining yourself. You stop proving happiness. You simply live it. That simplicity strengthens faith and preserves tranquility. When joy is shared publicly, it becomes vulnerable to opinions that may not be kind. Even well-meaning reactions can disturb peace. Advice, comparison, and subtle judgment creep in. Islam values serenity, and serenity requires boundaries. Keeping joy private creates a safe space where it can grow without interference. This does not mean isolation, it means selectiveness. The believer chooses wisely who gets access to their inner world. This wisdom reflects emotional maturity guided by faith. Your joy also does not need to be understood by everyone. Understanding is not a requirement for validity. Allah understands fully, and that is enough. When you accept this, you release the burden of explanation. The heart feels lighter. It no longer fears misunderstanding. It trusts that Allah's knowledge outweighs human perception. This trust stabilizes joy and keeps it intact during times of change. Seeking public approval can also turn joy into pressure. Once others are watching, expectations form. You feel the need to maintain happiness rather than experience it naturally. This pressure drains peace. Islam encourages authenticity. Authentic joy includes quiet days, changing moods, and growth over time. Privacy allows this authenticity to exist without judgment. It gives the heart room to breathe. The believer who stops seeking approval becomes internally guided. Their joy is anchored in gratitude rather than applause. This anchoring protects happiness during hardship. When approval fades, joy rooted in Allah remains. This endurance is a sign of true contentment. Allah grants it to those who trust Him more than people. Joy lived quietly often feels deeper. It is not rushed or displayed. It settles gently into the heart. This depth brings calm. Calm strengthens faith. Faith supports joy. This cycle creates inner stability that public approval cannot offer. Islam encourages believers to enjoy Allah's blessings but also to guard them wisely. Guarding joy from public approval is an act of trust. You trust Allah to preserve what He gave without needing others to confirm it. This trust invites barakah. In the end, your joy is not for public approval because it was never given by the public. It was given by Allah. And when joy is protected for His sake, it remains pure, peaceful, and lasting exactly as He intended. Privacy protects you from unnecessary advice. One of the quiet benefits of privacy is protection from advice that was never asked for and never needed. Many people speak not to help, but to project their own fears, experiences, or assumptions. When you share too much, you invite voices that may confuse rather than clarify. Islam teaches us wisdom in speech because words open doors. Once a door is opened, not every visitor will be beneficial. Privacy allows you to choose whose guidance you receive. This choice protects the heart from overload. Too many opinions weaken confidence and disturb peace. Allah does not guide through noise. He guides through clarity. When life is lived quietly, Allah's guidance becomes easier to recognize. Privacy keeps the heart focused on what truly matters rather than reacting to constant commentary. Unnecessary advice often comes disguised as concern. People may speak with good intentions, but good intentions do not always produce good outcomes. Advice given without understanding your context can create doubt. Doubt weakens trust. Trust is essential for blessings to grow. Islam does not obligate believers to open their lives to every opinion. The Prophet ﷺ valued consultation, but he chose carefully whom he consulted. This teaches us that guidance should be sought selectively. Privacy preserves that selectiveness. It prevents the heart from becoming a meeting place for confusion. When fewer voices enter, clarity increases. Oversharing invites comparison, and comparison invites advice. People see your situation through their own lens and suggest solutions based on their lives, not yours. This mismatch creates pressure. The believer begins to question their path unnecessarily. Islam encourages reliance on Allah and informed counsel, not crowdsourced direction. Privacy supports this principle. It allows you to seek advice from those who are wise, sincere, and knowledgeable, rather than receiving it from everyone who has an opinion. This protection is mercy. Unnecessary advice also shifts focus from Allah to people. Instead of turning to dua and reflection, the believer becomes entangled in human perspectives. These perspectives often conflict, leaving the heart unsettled. Privacy reduces this distraction. When you keep matters quiet, your heart turns naturally toward Allah. This turning strengthens faith. Allah becomes the primary source of reassurance rather than people. This reliance brings calm and confidence. Advice, even when kind, can plant fear. Warnings, cautionary tales, and hypothetical problems may overwhelm the heart. Privacy shields the believer from these fears. Islam teaches us to trust Allah's plan. Constant advice can make the believer doubt that plan. Silence protects trust. It allows the heart to move forward with confidence rather than hesitation. Privacy also protects decision making. When too many opinions enter, clarity fades, choices become heavier, the believer becomes paralyzed by options and expectations. Islam values decisiveness guided by prayer. Privacy supports this by reducing noise. A quieter environment makes it easier to listen to the heart and to Allah's guidance. This decisiveness strengthens peace. Not all advice is bad, but not all advice is necessary. The believer learns to differentiate. Privacy gives space for this discernment. You choose counsel intentionally rather than receiving it passively. This choice empowers the heart. Empowerment builds resilience. When advice is constant, joy diminishes. Happiness becomes monitored and evaluated by others. Privacy protects joy from being dissected. It allows happiness to exist without explanation. This freedom preserves peace. The Prophet ﷺ taught that a person's Islam is perfected when they leave what does not concern them. Privacy supports this teaching. It prevents others from involving themselves in matters that are not theirs. This reduces friction and preserves dignity. In the end, privacy protects you from unnecessary advice because it protects clarity, trust, and peace. When you guard your life wisely, Allah guards your heart from confusion. And that protection is a quiet blessing that strengthens faith. Allah loves quiet gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most beautiful acts of worship, yet it is often misunderstood. Many people believe gratitude must be loud, announced, or displayed for others to see. But Allah loves gratitude that lives quietly in the heart. Quiet gratitude is sincere because it seeks Allah alone, not recognition from people. When a believer thanks Allah silently, their heart remains focused on the giver rather than the audience. This form of gratitude strengthens faith because it is pure. It is not mixed with pride or performance. Islam teaches us that what is hidden is often more beloved to Allah than what is shown. Quiet gratitude allows blessings to settle peacefully without pressure. It creates a deep sense of contentment that does not depend on reactions. When gratitude is practiced quietly, it becomes a private conversation between the servant and Allah, and that intimacy brings calm to the soul. Allah knows what is in the heart before it reaches the tongue. Quiet gratitude acknowledges this truth. When you thank Allah without announcing it, you show trust that His knowledge is enough. This trust is powerful. It frees the believer from the need to prove appreciation publicly. Instead, gratitude becomes consistent and stable. Loud gratitude can fade once attention disappears, but quiet gratitude remains even when no one is watching. This constancy invites barakah. Allah increases blessings when gratitude is sincere and steady. Quiet gratitude also protects the heart from arrogance. When no one is watching, pride has no place to grow. The believer remains humble, aware that every good comes from Allah alone. The Prophet ﷺ expressed gratitude in both words and actions, often privately through prayer and reflection. His gratitude was not a performance, it was a relationship. This teaches us that gratitude is most meaningful when it shapes behavior rather than speech alone. Quiet gratitude appears in patience during hardship, humility during ease, and trust during uncertainty. These qualities are seen by Allah even if they are unnoticed by people. Islam values this hidden consistency. It reflects sincerity, which Allah loves. When gratitude is quiet, it transforms the believer internally rather than impressing others externally. Quiet gratitude also protects blessings from envy and interference. When blessings are announced loudly, they attract attention that may not be sincere. Islam acknowledges the reality of envy and advises wisdom. Gratitude expressed quietly keeps blessings safe. It allows them to grow without exposure. This protection is not fear, it is awareness. The believer understands that some blessings are delicate and require care. Quiet gratitude provides that care. It nurtures joy without weakening it through display. Gratitude does not need witnesses to be valid. Allah is the best witness. When the believer internalizes this, gratitude becomes natural rather than forced. It flows from the heart without effort. This natural gratitude brings peace. Peace strengthens Iman. A peaceful heart is more receptive to guidance. Quiet gratitude creates this peace by removing comparison, expectation, and pressure. Many people struggle to remain grateful because their gratitude is tied to public response. When praise is missing, gratitude fades. Quiet gratitude avoids this trap. It is independent. It remains even when circumstances change. This independence makes gratitude resilient. Allah loves resilience in faith. He loves the servant who remains thankful in private just as they would in public. This consistency is beloved to Him. Quiet gratitude also deepens awareness. When you thank Allah silently, you notice smaller blessings, a calm moment, a protected heart, an answered dua without announcement. These unnoticed gifts become sources of joy. This awareness increases humility and contentment. Contentment is a sign of rich faith. Allah gives contentment to those who recognize His gifts without needing to display them. Gratitude expressed quietly often leads to increased remembrance. The believer reflects more, prays more sincerely, and feels closer to Allah. This closeness is a reward in itself. Allah loves when His servant turns to Him without seeking validation from creation. Quiet gratitude strengthens this connection. It makes worship more meaningful. When gratitude is quiet, it becomes a habit rather than a moment. It shapes how the believer speaks, acts, and responds. This habit protects the heart from entitlement. The believer remains aware that blessings are gifts, not guarantees. This awareness increases respect for Allah's mercy. In the end, Allah loves quiet gratitude because it is sincere, humble, and protective. It strengthens blessings without exposing them, deepens faith without performance, and fills the heart with peace without noise. And when gratitude is practiced quietly for the sake of Allah, He increases it in ways that only the soul can feel. Protected joy lasts longer. Joy is one of the blessings Allah gives that requires care, just like something precious placed in your hands. When joy is protected, it matures slowly and becomes stable. When it is exposed too early or too widely, it becomes fragile. Islam teaches us that not every blessing is meant to be displayed. Some blessings are meant to be lived quietly, nurtured with gratitude, and protected from unnecessary attention. Protected joy does not depend on praise or validation. It grows from within and rests peacefully in the heart. When you guard your happiness, you allow it to deepen rather than disappear quickly. Many people experience short bursts of happiness that fade because they were built on excitement rather than stability. Protected joy is different. It is calm, consistent, and resilient. It remains present even when life becomes difficult. This kind of joy lasts longer because it is rooted in trust in Allah, not in circumstances or people's reactions. When joy is protected, it is not constantly compared to the joy of others. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to weaken happiness. Islam teaches us to be content with what Allah has written for us. Contentment cannot survive constant comparison. By keeping joy private, the believer avoids measuring their life against others. This avoidance preserves peace. Peace strengthens joy. A protected joy does not ask whether it is enough by worldly standards. It simply exists with gratitude. This simplicity allows joy to remain steady rather than fluctuating. Allah loves hearts that are satisfied with His decree. That satisfaction invites barakah into happiness, making it last far beyond temporary excitement. Protected joy also avoids unnecessary interference. When too many people have access to your happiness, they bring opinions, advice, and expectations. Even kind intentions can disturb the heart. Islam values clarity and calmness. Protected joy maintains both. When happiness is not constantly discussed, it is not constantly evaluated. The believer enjoys what Allah has given without defending it or explaining it. This freedom allows joy to grow naturally. It is no longer pressured to perform or remain perfect. It is allowed to breathe. A joy that can breathe survives longer. Allah protects what His servants protect wisely. When you guard your happiness for His sake, He places a shield around it. This shield may be unseen, but its effect is felt. Problems are reduced. Envy is avoided. Disappointment is softened. The believer may never know how much harm Allah prevented, but they feel the peace that comes from divine protection. Protected joy carries this peace within it. It does not rely on constant reassurance. It trusts Allah to preserve it. Protected joy is also less vulnerable to emotional swings. When happiness is shared publicly, reactions influence emotions. Praise elevates it. Criticism damages it. Silence confuses it. This instability exhausts the heart. Islam encourages emotional balance. Protected joy provides that balance. It remains steady regardless of external noise. This steadiness allows joy to last through different seasons of life. Allah loves consistency in faith and emotion. Consistent joy reflects strong reliance on Him. When joy is protected, gratitude becomes deeper. The believer thanks Allah sincerely without needing witnesses. This private gratitude strengthens the bond between the servant and Allah. That bond nourishes joy. Joy nourished by faith does not fade easily. It becomes part of the believer's inner strength. This strength supports them during hardship. Protected joy does not disappear when tested. It transforms into patience and hope. This transformation is a sign of lasting happiness. Protected joy also prevents regret. Many people regret sharing too much once joy is questioned or disturbed. Guarding happiness avoids this pain. The heart remains calm, free from second guessing. Islam values peace of heart because it supports worship. A heart at peace can pray with focus, remember Allah with sincerity, and trust Him fully. This trust strengthens joy further. A protected joy becomes intertwined with faith itself. Joy that is guarded grows with maturity. It does